Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kevin, and today I'm doing a project from the Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy anime. I've been a fan of the manga for this series for a couple of years now, and when I went to Crunchyroll to start watching Solo Leveling, I discovered that not only had they adapted this to an anime, but there was already a season 2 on the way. I watched season 1 and found a weapon that looked right up my alley. Today, I'm making an Uchine, also known as a throwing arrow, which is used in the season 1 finale. I did extensive research, by which I mean I googled it and clicked on the first result. It turns out this was a real weapon, at least sort of. An Uchine was kind of like a shuriken, which is a throwing knife I think we're all familiar with from anime, but with feathers on the back to help stabilize it during flight. Archers did use this as a backup weapon, because they could swing it around like a dagger, throw it like a shuriken, or spin it around by the cord on the back. The actual ones looked a lot like old lawn darts, so what we see in the anime has really no historical basis aside from the name. I'm basing everything off of this image because it's the cleanest reference. This is a must for me because this is a great example of how inconsistent animes can be. This is how the weapon is portrayed over the course of 2 minutes. Just look at the bottom of the blade. Sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's gold, sometimes it has a completely different design. Anyways, in GIMP, I traced over all the key details. This isn't strictly necessary, but does make the modeling a little bit easier. In Blender, I started by modeling the handle. This isn't always where I begin modeling, but it is the origin for all of the measurements. I want to make sure the final prop looks and feels good in my hand, so I always begin by figuring out the handle diameter and length, and determine everything else from there. I don't have a set approach for modeling, like starting at one end versus the other, but I do generally like to do the largest pieces first. This helps me get a sense of the final prop early on, so I can make small adjustments if needed. This often means I'm doing the blade pretty early in the process. Before doing the hilt, or whatever you want to call the piece connecting the blade to the handle on a weapon like this, I like to have both the blade and the handle clearly defined, so I know what I have to work around. I'm pretty proud of how the fletching turned out. It was just some rough modeling that was smoothed over with a subdivision surface modifier, but it looks really satisfying. One of the last things I did was correct the interior versus exterior faces. This gets messed up pretty often on my models, because I start with a lot of two-dimensional planes and circles and then extrude them from there. This gets caught when I'm repairing the model, but it's faster and easier to fix in Blender. This was actually one of the first things I printed with my new Bamboo P1P. Generally, I use white or black filament, but I kinda dig the green PLA which came with the printer. At this point, I was still marveling at the quality compared to my older printer. I did a bit of sanding, applied some wood filler, and sprayed this with some sandable primer meant for automotive repair. Overall, it didn't need too much work. The fletching on the back did snap off at one point, so I had to reattach that and patch the damage. I started painting and then forgot about this for literal months as I was doing solo leveling projects and Stardew Valley pranks. I used mostly folk art metallic paint on this. Even the wooden handle is a mix of copper metallic paint with some regular brown acrylic paint. That little bit of shine gives it that magical fantasy feel. At the end, I sprayed this with some matte sealer to finish it off. The back of this print was seriously my favorite part of the project. I put a twist tie through here so I could hang this up while it was drying, and it helped it avoid damage while I forgot about it for months at a time. I finished this off by attaching some nylon rat tail cord to the back, so it matches what we see in the reference image. I couldn't get the knot to be quite how I wanted, so I resorted to using a little bit of super glue to help it hold its shape. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's really cool and definitely has that fantasy vibe I was looking for. If you want to make your own, I'll post all the files on Thingiverse. Just look in the video description down below for a link. If you want to support the channel, then go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'll be back next month with another project.